Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the One Funnel Away Challenge. I'm so pumped and excited to be here with you guys today for so many reasons, but mostly because today is day number 18, and day number 18, we start transitioning to some of my favorite things to talk about. I'm actually really excited for today and tomorrow. These are some of the things that, there's like when you have your frameworks, you have things you teach, you have like your favorites, you have ones that are they're kind of cool, but you have like the ones that you want everyone to understand and that are key and pivotal. And today's and tomorrow's are probably the three most important, most powerful frameworks that I teach that I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm pumped and excited for it today. A lot of these things though, there's so much foundational stuff that we have to get in place before I can share these things. In fact, in the One Funnel Away Challenge, I taught more of these core frameworks up front, but the problem is that people didn't have anything they were selling by the time they were going through those things, so it was hard to attach it to anything. And so the way we structure this new One Funnel Away Challenge, you guys know, is focusing more upfront on okay, what's the result? How do we turn that into a framework? How do we make that a tangible product now we can sell, right? And adding all those pieces in ahead of time so that by the time we're here today, you've got something you're actually selling, right? And hopefully I spent all the time yesterday you needed to go and get the funnel done and launched and live. Hopefully you did a test order, you saw it, and hopefully it's working at this point. If not, make sure you jump on with the coaches, grab an accountability partner, go with our customer support, whatever it takes to make sure you get your funnel live, and at the same time going through and getting all the products and the things plugged in into the funnel. So now we're going to start transitioning away from the funnel side of things and now into the promotional side of things. How do we start getting traffic? How do we start getting faces and eyeballs and people to come to you? And so the three frameworks I'm going to be teaching you guys today and tomorrow are going to be some of the core things you need to understand. Okay, I'm going to be talking today number 18, day 18 is called the Epiphany Bridge Origin Story. And so I'm going to be sharing you guys that framework today, which I'm so excited for. And I'm going to give you guys an assignment that is going to scare half of you guys to death and get the other half of you guys super excited. But anybody who does it, it'll probably be the transition point in your business and maybe even your life if you take it and you do it. And so that's exciting. Tomorrow I'm talking about the Dream 100, Hook, Story, Offer, which are two other core frameworks. And then on Monday, Rachel's coming back and she is going to be going deep with you guys into traffic for 3 days. So we can start getting leads and getting people coming into this funnel we've been creating, which is exciting. The other really cool thing is yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago now, Stephen Larson filmed your video for this weekend, and it's amazing. It's going to get you fired up and pumped up and excited about marketing and promotion and having a focal point on how do we get people into our funnels. And so I want to make sure this weekend you watch his training as well, because it's going to just take all these things we're talking about and light them on fire for you, which is exciting, right? So that's kind of the game plan. Again, today we're going to talk about Epiphany Bridge. Now, the Epiphany Bridge story, the first time I ever taught this concept, this principle, was in the Expert Secrets book. And so it's funny because I spent so much of the first 3 or 4 years of ClickFunnels teaching people funnels and funnel structure and how to do those kind of things. And what was interesting is after I wrote the .com Secrets book, I swore I would never write a book again. For anyone who's ever written a book, it's not easy. It's a hard process. I wrote that and I was like, I'll never write a book again. And what was interesting is people started, inside the ClickFunnels community, started understanding funnel structure, started building these funnels, started understanding value ladders and all the things you guys have been learning about so far, right? And then, but as I was watching, very few people were having a lot of success. There were a handful of people who were just killing it, right? Making millions and millions of dollars. And the bigger population was just kind of having moderate success, like making a few sales here and there, and they were struggling. And I was like, what are they missing? I'm trying to figure out what that thing was. And I was looking at their funnels and watching, doing tons of critiques and giving people feedback and all sorts of stuff. And the more time I spent inside of our community trying to help all of our funnel hackers have success, the more I realized that the biggest thing that they were struggling with now at this point was not having a product to sell or having an actual funnel structured correctly. It was actually, how do they tell their story? How do they cause a movement? How do they get somebody not to buy once, but to buy over and over and over again from them? How do they build connection with their audience? How do they tell their story? And so that's why I decided to write the second book. In fact, it's kind of funny. Dave Woodward and I were sitting at an event. We went and at that event I had dinner. I was sitting at this dinner table with a bunch of amazing people, and Dean Graciosi was sitting across the table. We're sitting there talking. In the middle of this conversation, I didn't know what we were talking about. All of a sudden, it popped into my head. It said, "You need to write another book. It's going to be called Expert Secrets, and you're going to tell people how to tell their story." And I was like, "Oh, I did not know." Okay, and so I went back that night to the hotel. I was like, "Dave, we're writing another book." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes, it's going to be called Expert Secrets. This is the whole thing." And he started freaking out. I started freaking out, and started me on a 2-year journey to create the second book for you. And from this book, this is one of the core fundamental principles you need to understand and to master is your Epiphany Bridge story. So what is an Epiphany Bridge story? Some of you may have heard me share kind of this concept before. I'm going to share kind of a quick overview of what it is, and then we're going to dive deep into the script and actually how we structure our Epiphany Bridge story. But first, you need to understand what an Epiphany Bridge story is. So I want you guys to go back in time, and I want you to remember a time before today, right? Right now, you guys are all in this world. If you're here listening to me and you're paying attention, I'm assuming you have some kind of superhuman power, even if you don't know it at this point, right? You're good at something. That's why you're here. You want to sell this product or this service or something that you're excited by, right? But I need you to stop and go back in time. Go back to the point in life when you were just a normal human being. How many of you guys remember that time in your life before you were excited about the thing that you're trying to sell now? Okay, I always think about this in any aspect of my life. Like when I was wrestling, before I started wrestling, I go back in time. What was little Russell like back then, right? I remember I was a nerdy little kid. I get home from school, I'd eat Cheerios and Rice Krispies. I'd watch cartoons all day, and then when it got over, then I'd go have dinner, and then I'd do my homework and go to bed. That was my life for the first 10, 12 years of my life before I found wrestling. And then when I found wrestling, I remember the experience that I became a wrestler. I remember it was my freshman year. I had. This is a long story. I'll tell you guys the shorter version of it. But I had just made the JV team. And I remember I was awkward. I was nervous. I was excited. And I went to weigh-ins that day. I remember going to weigh-ins, and I got on the scale to weigh in. And those who don't know how wrestling weigh-ins, I get to be as light as possible. So I had my tighty-whities on, which I'm super awkward as a freshman anyway. I walk in, get on the scale, and I get off the scale, and the guy I'm going to wrestle walks in. He stands on the scale. And this dude had a mustache. Now, I want you to understand, to this day, I still can't grow a mustache, right? And I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, this is a grown man. I'm a little freshman, scared, and I have to wrestle this guy with a mustache. I remember being so scared, I called my dad, Dad, the guy's gonna kill me. He's got a mustache, all these things, right? And I remember being so scared, and I went, after weigh-ins, you have a chance to go eat, and then you go upstairs to the wrestling room. And so I go to the wrestling room, and we start warming up for the match. And in the stands, there's 4 parents, my mom and dad, a couple of people, and that's it, right? Nobody comes to the JV wrestling matches. And so I'm in there, and we start warming up, and all of a sudden they call my name, and I walk out there, put my singlet on, I walk out there, I see the guy with the mustache, shake his hands, I'm scared to death, and all of a sudden we start wrestling. And I don't remember what happened in the match. I don't even remember how I scored or anything. All I remember is that in the match, I stood up, and I was kind of confused, I don't know what happened, and we shake each other's hands, and the ref raises my hand. And we're looking over and seeing this grown man with a mustache who I had just beaten. I look over into my stands, I see my dad jumping like crazy, and that day I became a wrestler. I was like, for the rest of my life, I just want to become a wrestler. And it started me on this journey. This experience, this emotional experience started me on a journey. A kind of funny side note, I wasn't planning on sharing this, but last night, actually, one of my sons, he's a freshman, and man, I hadn't even told Dave or anyone the story yet, but last night he had a match, almost as a similar situation. He had to go up a weight class because, anyway, everything happened, and this kid that he was wrestling came out, and the kid was built. My Bo and my little son's kind of, anyway, and they came out, and Bowen had the match of his life last night. It was crazy. And he actually was losing to the guy by 4 points. The guy was beating him really, really good. And then Bowen came back. He did a new move we learned this week on him. Did another thing. He ended up beating him. Anyways, crazy. And the entire stands were going crazy. I was going crazy. It was the match of the night. And I called my dad last night. I said, tonight, Bowen became a wrestler. He felt what I felt that moment. And it was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. It's like the greatest thing. Okay, and the same thing happened to me in the funnel world, right? I was trying to start a business, trying to figure things out. I was, just got married to my wife. I was trying to sell stuff on eBay and on Craigslist and all sorts of stuff. Nothing was working. And then that's when I had my potato gun story, right? Boom, I had this experience. And it was an emotional experience for me. I made money with this potato gun, and you guys have heard this story before, but it started me on this journey, right? Started me on this journey. And so I want you guys to remember back in time, what was the thing? And I guess it was a very emotional experience for you, right? It was an emotional experience. Something happened that started you on the journey to the thing you are today, right? And so I call this an epiphany. You had this epiphany, right? And sometimes the epiphany comes from somebody. You met somebody, a mentor who gave you this epiphany, right? You're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you for teaching me this. Maybe some of you guys, this challenge has been your epiphany moment, right? Okay? And sometimes the epiphany comes from God. It's you're sitting there struggling, you're working, all of a sudden you get this idea, this inspiration, you're like, oh, this is the answer, this is where I need to go, right? And so you have this epiphany, and what happens after you have this emotional experience, you have this epiphany, then you're bought in, this is the greatest thing in the world. I'm a wrestler now, right? I'm gonna be an entrepreneur now. I'm gonna be whatever your thing is, right? And then you start going and you start getting all excited, and you're like, I gotta go learn everything about this. And you start geeking out, right? You put glasses on this to represent geeking out, even though people's glasses are not necessarily geeks. But you put on glasses, you start geeking out, you start studying and learning everything you can on the topic. You know the science, the statistics, all the stuff about it, right? And what happens, you get this huge thing, and then you learn what we call techno-babble. Okay, you have all this technobab, you have all these ideas, you know how to like convince somebody logically, and put logic down here, logically, how to, like why this thing that you experience, why it's the best thing in the world, right? And all you guys have this now. I can sit down and talk geek with you guys for 45 minutes to 2 or 3 days, talking about all the advantages, like about having funnels versus having websites and how to do traffic. Like I could geek out and like totally technobabble on all of you guys, right? Okay, but the problem is this is where most people try to sell. Is they take their technobabble, they see their prospect coming in, they're like, let me spew out and tell them about why the science and the technology and all the things I have are the best. And they try to convince somebody that that's why somebody buys, okay? And they have to understand that this is not why people buy, okay? People buy because of this, okay? You didn't sign up because of this, because of the technobabble, you signed up because of something different. You have to remember what that thing was. Okay, the first time I ever taught this principle, I actually got asked to speak at an event for a company called Prove It. How many of you guys have ever heard of Prove It? Okay, I had a chance to help them initially when they were kind of building out their sales messages and stuff. And Brian, who's the founder, he asked me to come speak. So I come to this thing, and I remember I go to the hotel, I got my bag, I'm checking in, and I walk in, and I get in my hotel room, I look around, and I see a whole sea of people, all in their spandex, right? Because that's what workout people do. And they're all in their spandex, and they're all excited, and I'm watching them, and they're all excited looking around, and you see like the unsuspecting prospect walking across the hotel lobby, right? And they're in their spandex, they're like, okay, that's our person, we're gonna sign them up. And you watch them as they all run over, and they like pounce on the person, bah, and they jump on him, and they start spewing out technobabble about how ketones are better than glucose, and how the beta hydroxybutyrate salts inside of their supplement does it all. And I'm watching them spew, and the person's like, and then like run off and try to escape, right? And watching this, I watch it 2 or 3 times in the lobby, and I'm just dying laughing. And fast forward an hour later, I'm speaking at this little event. It's their leadership team. So about 150 people in the room. I come in the room, and I ask Brian, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? He's like, talk about whatever you want to. I'm like, dang it, I don't even know what to do. And I remember I was in the back of the room, and they said, okay, Russell Brunson, come on up and talk to us. So I walked to the front of the room, and I'm looking out, and I'm like, I don't have any slides prepared. I have nothing prepared. What should I share with everybody? I started looking around. I started seeing all the people in the room who were pouncing on people in the lobby, right? I was like, I know why they're struggling. Like, should I tell them? Should I not tell them? I said, I want to ask you guys a question. I drew this out here. I said, okay, I want you to remember, before you guys were hardcore to Prove It, before you went to all of the events and the seminars and learned from the scientists and the techno people and learned all this stuff, what was the reason why you guys signed up? I was like, who here signed up because they thought the beta hydroxybutyrate salts inside of the drink that you guys have was going to help increase your ketone level, which would then decrease your blood sugars and make you have more energy and burn more fat? And nobody's hand went up. I'm like, why did you sign up? And the lady's like, well, I drank it and it tasted really good and I had a lot of energy. I said, okay, good. Like, how about you? Like, well, I had a friend who lost 15 pounds on it, and she looked great, and so I want to try it. So I got some, and I drank it, tastes good, so now I'm in. I was like, exactly. Every single one of you guys came in for an emotional reason. This is why you signed up. Then you went on this logical epiphany where you started geeking out, studying, and now you're seeing these prospects come through, and you go and you spew this technobabble on them. That's why nobody's buying what you're selling, okay? One of my friends, Kim Claver, wrote a book, If My Product's So Great, How Come Nobody's Buying It? And I think one of the chapters is called Technobabble. She said technobabble is the #1 killer of sales, okay? Yet this is where most of you guys are selling. In your videos, in like everywhere you're doing, you're trying to spew out this technobabble, and that's not how you get somebody to move. You get somebody to move by coming back on this epiphany, remembering the emotional experience that you had, and telling that story. If you tell that story in the right way, the person listening will have the epiphany themselves, and then they will go on the journey. They'll sell themselves logically all day long. Your job is just to tell them a story about the emotional experience you had that got you to believe in this thing that you're trying to share with them, and hopefully they'll have the same epiphany you did. That's the goal, okay? And I could talk for like 2 days on this, but I'm not going to. But that's what the Epiphany Bridge story is, okay? Is understanding that. And we use these Epiphany Bridge stories all the time. I use them in my ads. I use them in my sales videos. I use them in my podcasts. I use them over and over. Like, you'll see so many use cases for it. But today we're going to be actually doing an Epiphany Bridge story related to your flagship framework. Okay, so when I start going through this, I want you to start thinking about the flagship framework you guys are created, right? The $7 offer you guys created from day number 1. Okay? When you create that thing, what was your Epiphany Bridge story related to that? Okay? Why did you create that? Right? You created this thing, like what was the reason? Like, how did you figure it out? How did you learn this framework? How did you discover it? Like, what was the thing that got you to start on this journey to figure this thing out? That's where we got to kind of start and begin. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go and share with you guys the actual structure now of how we tell the story. How many of you guys have ever studied story structure before? If you haven't, it's one of the most fascinating things in the world. We could do, and I could go on for days talking about this. The first book that a lot of people learn about when they first come into like understanding story structure is a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. And it's interesting, in this book, he goes through all periods of time, like every generation, all the way back to as far as we have records, but not just every generation, but also every society. So all around the world, every society. And what's interesting is almost every society, every generation throughout time, for all of their stories and their folklore and their movies and their books and everything, followed the exact same story structure. It's identical. Okay, and so he found that in his lifelong study of this thing, and he went through and categorized and said, "This is what story structure looks like," and mapped out. Said, "These are the steps. This is how it works." And it worked. And you start plugging any movie, every story into it, and it kind of works. In fact, one of the biggest success stories from this is after Joseph Campbell wrote that book, George Lucas read it and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! Here's the framework. I'm going to write a movie and I'm going to copy this framework to the T." Okay, so he did that, and guess what he created? Star Wars. Okay, Star Wars is literally taking this story framework that's been around since the beginning of time, and he laid out timeline and said, okay, here's where Luke does this, here's where Darth Vader, like plugged in all the pieces, and boom, he had Star Wars, right? If you look at any movie that Hollywood puts out nowadays, right? Hollywood, Disney, all these things, they fit that framework. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep into it. I could spend literally days on it. In fact, if you read Expert Secrets, there's like 2 or 3 chapters specifically showing the evolution of story structure and how it works. How it worked in Joseph Campbell's book, how it was transitioned into Disney, into the movies, into all sorts of stuff. But from all that, as I started geeking out and started studying it, I was looking at the story structure. I'm like, okay, this is amazing for movies and for books. How do we use it for us internet nerds who are on video all the time, right? If I'm going to tell a story, if I'm going to do a Facebook Live, if I'm going to do an ad, if I'm going to do something, how do I reverse engineer that story structure to work for someone like us? And so based on that, we wrote a really cool script that's inside the Expert Secrets book called the Epiphany Bridge script. And that's what I'm going to walk you through right now, how that works, okay? So the first thing you have to understand is in any story, every movie from the beginning of time, all history, the way the good stories are written is the story always starts with the hero. Okay, and this is the hero. This is going to be a timeline, and I'm going to walk you across the stage here, but this is the beginning, okay? The hero always starts in his own ordinary world. Okay, think about it. Frodo started his journey in the Shire. This is where he felt comfortable, right? Okay, Lightning McQueen started it at the racetrack in Cars, right? Man, pick out any movie you think about. It always starts at the very beginning, right? Rocky Balboa was in his element in the boxing where he was comfortable in his home, right? And that's where all stories begin. Now, the first 10, 15 minutes of any book, or excuse me, any movie, the job of the story is to build a relationship with the hero. Right? And so they're in this ordinary world, you get to know them, you start finding out about them, you start learning the backstory to the point where you actually care about this person's life. Right? And that's the first thing. So the very beginning of any story always starts with the backstory of the hero. Okay, so there's the hero. Now, the 2 things we're trying to figure out before this hero leaves the ordinary world, leaves the place where they start, is we have to figure out what is this hero's desire. Okay, there's these desires that the person has. Okay, and there's 2 desires. The first desire is the external. Okay, the external desire. So for the people watching the movie, the external desire is the one that you know about, right? So you know that Lightning McQueen wanted to win the Piston Cup. This is we call it the journey of achievement. This is the thing he wanted to achieve. This was his big desire, right? Rocky Balboa wanted to go the distance with Apollo Creed. Frodo needed to take the ring to Mordor and throw it inside of the volcano for it to die, right? Every movie's got this. The hero has desires, and there's this external desire of where they want to go, okay? And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is what we call the internal desire. Okay, internal desire is not so much like, I want to go achieve this thing, but it's what do they really, like, why do they want to achieve that? What's the purpose? What's the reasoning behind it? Okay? So this is the first part of every story. Now again, this isn't a movie, but for you when you're telling your story, it's the same thing. A lot of us, we have this misconception, like when I'm going to tell somebody's story, like I need a posture and show them how great I am. I want to show them my successes over here. Like, hey, I'm Russell Brunson. I have a company that's $150 million a year, blah, blah, blah. That's what we want to tell our stories because we all want to posture ourselves and feel significant. The problem is when you posture and you feel significant, the people who you're trying to follow you on this journey, they look at that and they're like, oh, I can never attain that. Your job is not to tell people how great you are. Your job is to get off of your off your ladder, off the mountain and come back down, over back here to where you began your journey because that's where they're meeting you. That's where they're starting their journey and be like, hey, I was just like you. Let me tell you my story. I wanted to, and whatever it is, like, when I grew up, I blah, 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 blah. I did this thing and I had this desire. I wanted to achieve that thing. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to, whatever that external desire is, right? So that's the first thing you share is the external desire. Now, again, That's what a lot of people are willing to share. That like, I wanted to go on this journey because I wanted to figure out blah, blah, blah. I wanted to do this thing, right? The second desire, the internal, this is the one that most people are scared to share. Okay, this is the internal desire. This is the reason why. Like, why did you want to go and figure out how to make more money? Okay, if I tell my story, like why did I figure, like why was I working on the stupid potato gun DVD? Why was I doing this stuff like between wrestling practice and everything else? Because if I tell you my story, I just met my wife. We had gotten married. And when I got married, before I got married, my dad was supporting me, which was amazing, right? And when I got proposed to my wife, he said, that's awesome, but just so you know, like when you're married, you're a man, like I'm not paying your bills anymore. You have to figure this out on your own. I was like, but Dad, I'm wrestling full time. I can't have a job. He's like, well, you decide you want to get married, like you have to figure out how to pay for this. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to figure out how to make money. External desire, right? I got to figure out how to make money. Why? But like, why did I do that? So to figure out the internal, I start asking the question, why? And usually you have to ask questions 4 or 5 times before you get to the real internal, vulnerable part, okay? So why? Well, the reason why I wanted to get jobs, I wanted to make some money. Why? Well, because at the time I met my wife, and man, she was amazing, and she was working to support me, and so she was gonna have to pay for everything I wanted to help. Why is that important? Well, man, my wife, like when I fell in love with her, I know that the biggest thing she wanted, that what she wants is to start a family. Well, why? Well, she's 6 years older than me. And so for her, she was like, man, I need to start my family because I want to start it before I want to have kids before I'm too young. So then why do I make money? I want to make money because I wanted her to be able to quit her job. She was supporting me. She's working full time. And her biggest dream desire was to start a family. And if I'm honest, I felt like me as the man in this relationship, I should be the one helping to support her so she can live her dream of having a family. And I can't do that right now because I'm broke. So either I have to quit wrestling, which that's my dream, that's my vision, that's everything I care about in life, or she's got to give up her vision and work to support me. And for me, like I couldn't handle that. And so that's why I started this journey. That's why I was up all night gluing potato gun pipes together and putting out DVDs and trying everything I could think of because I didn't want to quit wrestling because that was my love, but I wanted her to be able to quit her job so she could start a family. And I couldn't do that unless I figured out a way to make money in another way. And that's what got me on this journey. Okay? So you see what I did? I shared the external desire, I want to make money, but what was my internal desire? I'm curious, as I told that story, which is very, very true, how many of you guys feel a different connection to me right now? Yeah. It's different, right? Because I got vulnerable. I told you why I cared about this. Nobody cares like, I want to make a bunch of money. I go, oh, okay, good job, we all do. But why? And then you get to the internal desire, why, right? Then people connect with you. That's where you get vulnerable. That's where there's connection points happen. So at the beginning of the story, when you start telling your story, you're telling your backstory, right? And you talk about the actual thing you wanted to achieve. And they're like, I want to achieve that too. And then you start saying, but this is the reason why. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I've never heard somebody being willing and vulnerable enough to tell me the reason why. That's the same reason why I want it. And now they connect with you. And now they're willing to come with you on this journey. Okay, so that's the very beginning part. Okay, is you right here telling your backstory. Okay, from there you transition to like, okay, so I was doing this thing, right? And I was trying to figure out how to make money, but everything I'm trying to try something, I hit into this wall, right? I tried to sell stuff on eBay, it didn't work. I tried to do this, it didn't work. I tried to do this and it didn't work. Right? So I'm sharing with them all the failures that I had to try to get to that journey, right? I'm here in my ordinary world. There's the result I want here up on top of the mountain, right? But I keep hitting this wall. Boom, I keep hitting this wall. I keep hitting this wall. Okay? And I like to tell people, like, I tried this. Like, these are all the things I tried to get my goal. None of them worked, right? Because they're sitting here saying, I tried eBay too. I tried to sell stuff on Amazon too. I tried drop shipping too. None of those things work for me either. I'm like, sweet. Okay? Now they're like, oh my gosh, we relate, right? Or for you, maybe yours is not business, maybe yours is weight loss, right? Like, I wanted to lose weight, I wanted to be up there, right? And I tried the Atkins diet, I tried the keto diet, I tried all these things, it didn't work for me. And they're like, me either. Like, this is the wall I kept hitting against, right? Now you have more rapport with them because you're sharing, these are all the things I failed at, and they're like, me too, okay? And so finally you realize that if I'm gonna have success, I cannot stay in my ordinary world. I have to leave and go on a journey. Frodo had to leave the Shire to go to Mordor, right? Lightning McQueen had to leave where the Piston Cup was to get to California to race for the title, right? What else? Rocky had to leave and go train somewhere else to get prepared for the fight, right? Like, the hero always leaves the ordinary world, okay? But the goal of the ordinary world is to build connection with your audience. You do that by sharing your desires, external, internal, talking about the wall you keep hitting, and finally you hear this call. It's called adventure. I have to leave, I have to go on this thing, right? So you start this journey, okay? So you talk about the wall. The wall are all the things you failed at, and then there's this journey, right? You start on the journey. In The Hero with 1,000 Faces, they call this the hero. The hero hears a call to adventure. Like, what was the call to adventure? And it's interesting because in that book it talks about whenever a hero hits a call, there's always the call and then there's always the refusal of the call. Like, okay, I'm gonna go and try that thing. It's like, but I don't know if I can. Like, I'm not sure if I'm being successful. Like the hero always refuses the call initially. Frodo's like, I don't want to go on this journey, right? Rocky Balboa, when he goes in like, you're going to fight Apollo Creed. He's like, I'm not no one. I don't want to go on this. I don't want to fight him, right? The hero always refuses the call, which again shows to them, like, I was scared too. I didn't want to do this thing, but then I decided I'm going to do it. And then they start this journey, okay? Now you go on this journey and something happens, okay? This right here is where typically you have your epiphany, right? So there's your epiphany. Now, this epiphany is typically one of two things. Okay, either the epiphany is something where you meet somebody and they share something with you, and you have this epiphany. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, we call this the guide. Okay, and the guide comes and says, here's this idea. Let me make this light bulb. Okay, it's like, here's this idea. Here's this thing for you, right? Here's this new opportunity. Instead of trying to instead of this wall you kept hitting into, you tried this diet and this diet, this diet. Instead, this is the thing. It's something completely different. Let me show you what it is, right? The guide gives you this new plan. You're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Or it's like you're studying and you're researching, you're trying a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden you get inspiration from God. You get this epiphany of like, this is the idea. Okay, so the epiphany either comes usually from a guide or from a higher power, right? It comes and gives you this idea of like, this is the new thing to try. Okay, and we call this in the Expert Secrets book, I don't have time to go deep into it, we call this a new opportunity. But they offer you, here's the new opportunity. Here's the new thing that we're going to give you to be able to get that result. It's different than anything you tried in the past. And you're like, this is amazing. Now what do I do with that? Okay, and from the epiphany is then you go and you formulate the plan, okay? So the plan is like a treasure map. For you guys, you know the plan as a framework, right? Okay, I have a framework. So I had this epiphany, this is amazing, I'm gonna get that goal, what are the steps? Boom, boom, I built this framework, okay? And so the framework, this is the plan. I figured out this is what I'm gonna do, this is the plan, I'm gonna go through it, and you talk about that, and during this plan, you talk about what the conflicts, like what was the so this is the pit right here, right? So there's the pit right there. Like, what were the conflicts you had as you were trying to execute this plan, okay? And then afterwards, two things are going to happen, okay? The first one, after you got the framework, you tried it, you trial and error, but eventually you figured out how to get there, and you went on this thing, and you actually achieved the thing that you were trying to do. So this is the journey of achievement. So back here, you talked about my external desires. I wanted to make money. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to trade stocks. I wanted to fill in the blank, whatever your thing is, right? I wanted to launch a potato gun, right? And all of a sudden over here, boom, you achieved the external thing, right? We call that the journey of achievement, okay? So people are excited, like, cool, he got the thing I wanted. Okay, but that's not where you stop, because people actually don't care much about the journey of achievement. What they care about is the second journey. We call this the hero's second journey, and that is the journey of transformation. Who did you become on this journey, right? That's right here, the internal thing, okay? I wanted to do this thing for my wife so she could quit her job so we could start a family, right? When I share people my journey of transformation of like, I was able to retire my wife, we went home, we had twins, we had kids, all that kind of stuff. Like that's the emotional part. That's what people actually care about. Who did you become on this journey, okay? And you think about any good movie, how it fits into this framework, right? I'll just share the Cars example again, okay? You come in here, Lightning McQueen, he wants to win the Piston Cup, loses that initial race to this thing, right? He's got to go to California to go race, okay? But you know his internal desires is he wants to be a winner, right? He's a rookie. No one's ever won as a rookie before. He's got all these insecurities, doesn't have any friends. Like you learn all this stuff before he leaves, right? Then he goes on this journey. They're going through this process. He hits a wall. He gets stuck in Radiator Springs. He meets this guide who's Doc, who teaches him the right race to race, right? He goes to get a plan, a framework. All sorts of conflict happens during most of the movie. He goes and he races the Piston Cup, and he actually doesn't win it, right? He ends up losing it at the end. Rocky Balboa didn't actually beat Apollo Creed, right? Nobody actually cares about the journey of achievement, but what they care about is who do you become along the way? Who did Lightning McQueen become along the way, right? He became a better person. There's a scene at the end, it's one of my favorite of like all movies, where Lightning McQueen's in the front, he's winning, he's beating everybody, right? And you've got the king who's like who's won it a million times in a row. He's about to go, or Lightning McQueen's about to win. The king gets in a car wreck, right? And the car flips out, and he's about to race to the finish and win. And all of a sudden he slams on his brakes. He pulls back, goes back and gets the king, and during that time, Chick Hicks, who's the guy they all hate, races through. He wins the race. Lightning McQueen pushes the king through the thing, and as he's doing that, the king comes back and says, dude, like this whole thing, you've been trying to achieve this thing, you just lost the Piston Cup, right? But he says this line at the very end that shows us who he became. He said, I had an old race car once told me, all it is an empty cup. Right? And you see how he evolved as a human during this journey. And that's why we love Lightning McQueen. That's why we love Rocky Balboa. That's why we love Frodo. That's why we love the hero. It's not by what they achieve, but by who they become. Okay? And so that's the Epiphany Bridge script. That's how we tell a story. Okay? And so for you guys, this is the script that I'm going to have you guys actually do today. I know right now you're going to be nervous, but I promise it's not going to be scary. Okay, the Epiphany Bridge script is powerful. We've been using this now for 4 or 5 years here inside of ClickFunnels. We've had so many people use this in so many ways. This works really good as a Facebook Live to push people to your framework, right? This is the story about how you created your flagship framework right here. Okay, and what you're able to achieve and who you became by using this framework. Like, what was that? What did it look like? One of the powerful ways, actually, let me show you the one-pager first, and I'll come back and tell you a couple cool ways to use this, okay? So let's pull the one-pager up. Boom, it's there. Okay, a couple things. So when you guys watch this video, you'll notice this one's 12 minutes long. I intro this for a few minutes, but then I actually do this exercise. I did it live on the stage, and I have a video of that right there. Okay, because what I'm going to have you guys, each of you do, on the page that you set up with Rachel during the first week, is I want you to get your phones out and actually do a Facebook Live sharing your Epiphany Bridge story. Some of you guys are like, freaking out, right? Okay, and it's scary. So the backstory of this, when we did, right after I wrote the Expert Secrets book, before we launched it, we did an event here in this room. I brought all my inner circle members, about 48 people in the room, and I taught them the Expert Secrets book for 3 days. It was really fun. And part of it was I taught this Epiphany Bridge script, and I said, okay, now you guys have the script. We're all going to go live and do it. And they're like freaking out, like, no, I don't want to go live. Like, everyone was freaking out. I was like, how about this? I'm going to do it first. So I sat on a chair right here in the stage, and I clicked go, and I did my Epiphany Bridge script going through the process exactly the way I just showed you guys. Okay? And so that video is here. So I want you guys to watch that so you can see me actually do the script live on Facebook, right? This is probably 3 years ago now, the video, but you have a chance to see it. And as you're watching it, look through your head and watch through all these things. Notice how I did all the different pieces as we go through this. Okay? And then at the end of it, I push people to go get a ClickFunnels trial. Okay? Same thing I want you guys to do is to go live on your page, tell the story, your story, and at the end of it, push people to your funnel. Okay? And that's kind of the game plan. So watch that video. Now, a couple things down below. As you can see, here's a picture of the script. So you're going to have that. I literally have this printed out and sitting on my desk so I can look at it anytime and be like, okay, what's my backstory? What's my external? What's my internal? What was the wall I was hitting? Okay, I started on this journey. What was the idea I had? Did somebody give it to me, or was it an idea I had from God? What was the new opportunity that I created? Okay, from there, what was the plan? What was I going to do? What were the conflict points? How did I struggle? And then what did I achieve? But then during that journey, who did I become? And I just look at that and I tell the story from that framework. Okay? Now, some of you guys are more less doodler and you want to see the questions. And so we also wrote it out this way in question format, where if you're like, I don't know how to do this, let me just ask the questions. I can ask you questions. Okay, what's the backstory that gives us a vested interest in your journey? You tell me the backstory. Cool. So what was the external struggle you were dealing with? Well, I really, really wanted to blah. Awesome. Okay, what was the internal struggle you were dealing with? Well, this. Right? Awesome. Okay, number 3, the wall. What was the problem that you hit when in your current opportunity that set you on this journey? Well, I tried this diet and this diet and this diet. None of them worked, and that's why I decided to go try something different. Cool. What was the epiphany you experienced and the new opportunity you discovered? I met this guy. He told me this thing. It was amazing, and I never heard of it before. I tried that thing, and it was the thing that actually worked for me. Awesome. Okay. What was the plan you created to achieve your desire? What was the framework? So based on that, I created this framework that goes through blah, 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 blah. Here's the 6 steps that got me to be able to have success. Cool. What conflict you experienced along the way? Well, as I was first trying, I assumed that this would be easier, this would be hard, but it turns out that part was actually harder, and this part was easy, and then I figured out this piece, and then all of a sudden, everything became simpler. I was able to finally get through it because of these tweaks along the way, right? Here's the conflict I figured out along the way, or I went through on the way, and how I tweaked the framework to be able to be successful because of that. Cool. What was the end result you achieved? Boom, journey of achievement. Awesome. What was the transformation you experienced? Boom, the journey of transformation. Okay? So you can ask those questions or have somebody ask you those questions, and you just answer them, and it'll take you through the script. Okay, one of my favorite stories is after I shared this at the FAT event. It's called FAT, F-H-A-T, Funnel Hackathon. Funnel Hackathon. Anyway, that's what people are like, what does FAT mean? F-H-A-T, Funnel Hackathon. Anyway, at the Funnel Hackathon event, I shared this, and Brandon and Kaylin Poland were sitting right here at the very front, and a lot of you guys know Kaylin. She's the lady boss. They're one of our biggest success stories inside ClickFunnels, and this is back when they were first getting started. And it was interesting because she did this, and she does it perfect. She does her backstory, and she did it. And what's interesting is you'll notice this is that as you put things out there, you're going to attract people who are similar to you, are going to be attracted to you, right? And Kaylin at the time, this is before she had any kids or anything, she had her nose pierced and tattoos and kind of tough girl, And so a lot of people that attracted her were that kind of person, right? Those people came to her, and she told me, she said, I've always struggled getting married women with kids, right? To get them to kind of be attracted to me because to come to me because I'm just a little different than them, and they don't come to me right now based on how the attractive character that she shared with people. And she said, so I had this idea. She said, I took your Epiphany Bridge script and I emailed all my customers and said, who are the moms out there that have gone through my program and had success? And she said, I got a dozen of them to raise their hand and say, yes, I went through your program. It was amazing for me. She said, cool. Would you be willing to share your story with our audience? because other people would love to hear this as well. And they're like, yeah, sure, how do I do that? And she said, okay. And so she made a Google Doc, and the Google Doc literally just asked these 8 questions. And she said, okay, what I want you to do ahead of time is go and fill out this Google Doc so you can fill out your story. And so they went out there and they filled out every single step in the thing, and then she read through it and she saw exactly what their story was. And then she said, okay, I want to invite you to do a Facebook Live. So she brought them on a Facebook Live, like an interview style, and she got them on the phone, got them on there and said, okay, hey everyone, this is so-and-so. She's a mom of 3 kids. And we have so many moms who ask about this program and see if it's a good fit for them because they see that I'm younger and stuff and don't have any kids, but they want to know if it's a good fit for mom. So I'm going to have so-and-so tell her story. And she's got the pre-questions said, okay, so Julie, what is your backstory? Gives us the best, like, what's your backstory? Like, tell us why we should care about your journey. And then Julie goes and like explains it, right? And what was interesting, she said that like a lot of times the person she was interviewing, first time ever on camera, there's a lot of people watching, they got all nervous, but she had seen the answers ahead of time. So she was able to say, well, tell me that story about when your mom said whatever to you, right? And she was able to kind of guide her down that path. And she asked the first question, and she asked the second, and the third, and the fourth, and she did this whole entire thing. When it was done, she did that video now, which was on her page, they were able to turn into an ad and target moms, and all of a sudden, boom, all of a sudden the moms started coming to her program and started signing up like crazy. And she said a bunch of times, a bunch of different market segments she was going after. Okay, and it was so powerful and so cool. So this Epiphany Bridge script, there's a lot of ways for you guys to use it. Today we're using it because I want you guys to tell your story about, like your Epiphany Bridge origin story, about why you created your flagship framework. That's the point of today. But this is a tool you use all the time. Okay? Most of you guys should be doing Facebook Lives more often, or Instagram Lives, doing podcasts. Like this is literally the framework we use over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? You can use it to get testimonials. Like, haven't you guys ever asked me for a testimonial? They send you back like, I bought Russell's product and it was great. I recommend everybody should get it. Like, okay, that's not going to help anybody, right? Whereas this way you can take them through a timeline, right? Well, tell us the backstory. What was the reason that you got started with us, right? What was the thing you were trying to accomplish? Now, why did you actually care about that? Right? You start taking through this timeline, okay? That's how it works. So down here, this is going to give you a shot in here if you scroll up a little bit. This is where you guys can go and actually fill this out for yourself, okay? So think through it. Like think through what was your backstory, right? What was your external desire? What was your intro? And fill this out, and that's going to be giving you the ability to kind of get your Epiphany Bridge story out on paper for the first time ever. And then, maybe it's just a scary thing. You get your phone out. You can go to your Facebook page. You can click live. You can say, hey guys, I want to tell you my story. And then you're just going to tell it. And we had people here, they were all over in this room. Everyone had different corners. Some people went outside, some people went in the bathrooms. But I forced everyone to do it. They all had their phone, and they all clicked record, and they had their script ahead of them. And a lot of them was like, hey, I wrote down my story I want to share with you guys. And some people just read it. Some people kind of told them, right? But they used it as a prompt, and it gave them the first time to tell their story. Now, for a lot of you guys, this is going to be so scary, to get out of your comfort zone, to go live on Facebook or do whatever. Okay, and if you're scared to death, I understand that. If you're really scared, what I'd recommend doing is the very first time, you could do it without having it go live. Like you can get your phone and click video and just record yourself doing it. That might make you feel more comfortable. Maybe you want to practice 2 or 3 times before you go live. The other option, I'm going to give Brandon a plug. He's behind the camera right now holding you guys. He's got a really cool software called Live Pigeon, where you can record it on your phone, and then Live Pigeon, you can actually push it, and it'll go on your Facebook page as if it's a live video, which might help some of you guys who are super nervous and don't want to go live. Regardless, I need you guys to record the video, okay? If you want to see in the class, you record the video on your phone, it sits there. You want to be in the class, you record the video and live stream it through Live Pigeon onto your page. If you want A in the class, go live and just do it and see what happens, okay? Not that I care about A, B's, and C's, but anyway, there you go. But I want to make sure you guys, worst case scenario, you record it and just see yourself actually doing it, okay? So that's kind of the assignment for today. One other thing, I'm going to scroll up right here. Jim Edwards did some cool things for you guys today, okay? Number one, as you guys know, he helped, he talked about and taught about Epiphany Bridge script. He's got software where you can fill in the blanks, click a button, and it'll help rewrite it for you. So that's amazing. And then also, this is like the super hookup for today. So as you guys know, this right here, this is 2 Comma Club. I'm wearing the 2 Comma Club shirt today. Our high-end coaching program is called 2 Comma Club X, and we take people through, it's a multi-year program to help people have success. And part of the program is that every single year, well, besides this year because of COVID, every single year, typically we go on a cruise with everybody. And so the last cruise we went on a little over a year ago, Jim Edwards got on stage and he talked, it was like one of the coolest presentations. It's like 30 minutes long. We talked about how to find the perfect hook inside of your story. And I don't want to spoil it, but that right there is worth its weight in gold. People had to pay $25,000 to go to the cruise, to be there, to hear this. And you guys are getting it for free because Jim's like, you cool if I share this with you guys? And I was pumped because it's really, really, really good. So make sure you watch that as well. It's going to help you to take this story you're creating and how do you pull the hooks out that are going to grab people's attention. Okay, tomorrow we're going to talk about hook story offer some more, as well as Dream 100. And so we're going to keep building upon this. But this is going to help you figure out, like, what are the hooks to make this story interesting so people actually show up, they actually listen, right? And that's kind of the game plan. So that's it for today, you guys. Okay, you learn the Epiphany Bridge script, the story. Now it's just your chance to go and kind of plug it in. Understand this is the process that all good stories go through, right? This is the way that I've been doing it now for 4 or 5 years. Most of the people in our inner circle, a lot of the big names you guys see online right now, were in this room 3 or 4 years ago, the first time I taught this, and now have huge, huge, huge companies. And this is one of the foundational things that we taught them, that we trained them on, and now you guys have it as well. Okay, so spend some time with this today. Have a good time. And again, first thing I would do, though, is come and watch this video here just so you can see me actually do it. Because I promise this is going to be scary the very first time. But if you see me, you're like, oh, that actually wasn't that scary. Russell just talked. He went through the script. He told the story, and it was really easy. Okay, so that's the game plan, you guys. Our team's going to drop the one-page link down below for day number 18, the Epiphany Bridge story. Hope you guys enjoyed today. But biggest thing is not just listening like, oh, that was cool. It's doing the actual work. So make sure you do the actual work. Like I said, if you're scared, just record it on your phone, but make sure you record it. That way you can get it out of your brain into words. Okay, the more times you do this, the better you're going to get at it. Okay, you'll notice I tell my stories over and over and over. Like I've probably taught this concept 30, 40, 50 times, right? You have to keep getting better at doing it. The more often you do it, the better you're going to get. So this is your chance to practice it and get it out the very first time. Like I said, if you're comfortable, do it on your page, because on Monday, we're going to talk about how to start taking the content you've been posting on the page and how do we start putting money behind it, how do we start driving, how do we get that to actually start getting a lot more traction, a lot more visitors, and a lot more views. And the way that's going to happen is by having good content, and having your Epiphany Bridge story on your page is amazing content. We can boost, we can promote, we can do a bunch of cool things with. So that's it, you guys. Again, the page is down below. Thanks so much. Tomorrow we're working on Dream 100 and Hook Story Offer, getting all prepared for Monday when we start turning up and cranking up the traffic. Thanks again, you guys, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.